back again. We've just taken a look at the letter that Bloom has received from Martha, surname as yet unknown, I believe. And I referred to the postscript, but I didn't discuss it in any detail. It says, P.S. Do tell me what kind of perfume does your wife use? I want to know. So that's quite intrusive. Now, what is that suggesting to us? She wants to know some practicalities about this Henry Flower. She knows he's married. How does she know he's married? He must have said that in a previous letter. And why does she want to know about the perfume? She's not going to meet. There's no suggestion so far that Martha wants to meet Molly or Mary, as we might say, as her name is Marion. And that will resonate in a couple of pages' time. So perfume. Perfume, first of all, it fits with the incense, narcotic, sort of hallucinogenic type thing, sends you in a different place, a smell, that sort of thing. But and perfume and smell will be important in the book. I believe in chapter 13, or Zikia, the organ is the nose, or the nose and the eyes. But I remember that Bloom a waft of perfume will come over him and he'll think on that. But I also think there's a much more practical sense here. Martha wants to meet Bloom. We don't know if Bloom wants to meet Martha, but Martha, there's a suggestion she wants to meet, and she's thinking practicalities. And one of those practicalities might cynically be that she wants to have a clandestine affair with him. She doesn't want it to get found out. And one way that it might get found out is if Bloom went back home smelling of another woman's perfume. Whereas if Martha wears the same perfume as Molly, then at least that's one less thing to worry about. So that's the cynical view of that. Okay, and then in the next paragraph, Bloom, he tears the flower away from the pin and thinks about the language of flowers. The language of flowers was quite a thing then, probably more so than now. In Victorian times and Edwardian times, different flowers meant different things. One could say something to a lover, maybe an illicit lover, and if one conveyed that in this sort of secret coded language of flowers, one might say all sorts of things in a fairly clandestine way. So sending a particular flowers might mean something others might mean something else. Joyce plays with this, and as Bloom thinks about the language of flowers. And Joyce is not, I don't think, terribly consistent or true to what the sort of flower dictionary definitions meant. And here I think we get a slightly more masochistic sexual sense to it. First of all, he thinks, first of all, he says, they like it, women, because no one can hear. So you can send things in code. Or he thinks it might be a poison bouquet to strike him down. Angry tulips, this masochistic sentiment that she'll be angry with him. You darling man flower, punish your cactus. I don't think leaves too much to the imagination. If you don't, please, poor forget-me-not, don't forget me. When we soon anemone meet, All naughty night stalk. Is that another? Is that another sexual double entendre that Bloom at night his penis becomes a stalk? Maybe. Make of it what you wish. But in any event, Weak Joy opened his lips. He's pleased that she has written back at all and tried to join in the fun. I think he's encouraged her to talk dirty to him and to be angry with him. And he's pleased that she's at least made an effort. We get a sense that she's not that good at it, that it's forced and it's strained and it's not what she would want to be writing, but she wants to please him. So she's giving it a go. But he thinks to himself, could meet one Sunday after the rosary. Well, she didn't say that in this letter, so she must have said that in a previous one. He then thinks, thank you, not having any. He doesn't want to meet her. Usual love scrimmage. Then running round corners. It might be as bad as a row with Molly. So he doesn't actually want to meet her. He wants to correspond with her. All sorts of interesting psychological things going on here. I don't know when is the best time to talk about that, because we haven't learned something very important that we will learn at some point. It's only confirmed way, way off in Ithaca in about 700 or 800 pages time, but I think we need to talk about it before then. This book, one needs to read this book more than once, because you only interpret earlier passages armed with the knowledge of what one has gleaned from reading stuff later on. But I'm not going to say it now. I'll keep you hanging on. Cigar has a cooling effect. Maybe where he's walked, he gets a whiff of a cigar, a narcotic smell that relaxes him. But he thinks he's encouraged. I'm going to go further next time. I'm going to write back, and I'm really going to want to push her, push the boundaries. Naughty boy, punish. Afraid of words, of course. Brutal. Why not? Try it anyhow, a bit at a time. We can think, if we wish, about where she says, I called you naughty boy because I do not like that other world. Please tell me, what is the real meaning of that word? Is she feigning innocence? He wants her to use a particular word, which we can probably guess at, but she doesn't want to use it. She's also pretending, I think. She's not even sure what that word means. I think, without using too much imagination, I mean, it might be fuck. It's probably cunt, a word that Joyce has used before. I think Bloom wants her to talk dirty to him. Let's move on. Now, with the flower, even a flower that has lost most of its scent, that's the pleasant side. The unpleasant side of this letter is the pin. With the rose comes the thorn. He throws the pin away. He remarks that it's a common pin. Out of a women always have lots of pins, no roses without thorns. Another reason why he doesn't actually want to meet with her. Too complicated. Makes him think about a song he's heard recently. Oh, Mary lost the pin of her drawers. She doesn't know what to do. To keep it up, to keep it up. If we hear the word Mary, you must think of Marion. Marion Molly Bloom, real name Marion. Her drawers are going to be loosened later that day. It's quite a disquieting thought for Bloom. Such a bad headache. He's thinking back in her letter, she said she had a headache. He thinks, has her roses probably, i.e. period. Right, the conflation of Martha and Mary makes him think of a picture that he's seen in an art gallery somewhere. Is it the Rubens or something like that? And it's depicting Jesus at the end of the day. Bloom imagines him. It's a nice kind of evening feeling. He's been walking in the day as Bloom has been walking, but now he can relax, and he has Mary sat at his knee, looking longingly, lovingly into his eyes, hanging on his every word, whereas Martha is practical. She's preparing some food. She's also doing good stuff. It's one can't criticize her, but the question is asked, I think, in the Bible, who is the better role model? Mary just lying there, kneeling, doing nothing. Martha hard at work, preparing the evening meal or whatever she's doing. And the answer comes back from Jesus. It's Mary. All you need to do is listen to my words, hang on my every word, says Jesus, and you will see the light. That's all the nourishment that you'll need. I do think, however, they're all probably going to eat something. So Martha has a role to play. He then, going under a railway arch, he takes out the envelope and he tears it into shreds. Why? That's addressed to H. Flower. Flower, we might as well, obviously. We have the Leopold Bloom. His father's original name was Virag. Virag means flower in Hungarian. That, therefore, should Molly find that, that's quite an easy association to make. That would be quite dangerous. Whereas just having a letter that says, Dear Henry, is not great if Molly finds it. In many chapters' time, we'll discover that these letters are not terribly well hidden. There's 3 of them before this one. Psychologically, what is that telling us? That's something we will consider way, way off. But yeah, he doesn't want to risk the envelope. He certainly doesn't want to risk the letter being found in the envelope. So he and then if the card is found, then the game's up. Molly will know everything. So he tears up the envelope. Reminds him of what if I tore up a check like that? A check is only paper. He'd heard about a check for £1 million that Lord Ivy, the owner of Guinness, once cashed. He thinks about the other Guinness brother, Lord Ardley, not so fortunate in terms of his skin condition. Then he thinks about what's £1 million worth of Guinness. How many pints of Guinness would you need to sell to make £1 million? He tries to work it out, but consistently with this chapter, he can't actually be bothered. He makes an approximation of it. A train goes over his head on the nearby railway line, and he imagines that it's containing barrels of Guinness, £1 million worth of barrels of porter, of Guinness's porter in there, and in his head he imagines that they break and the Guinness flows out all over Ireland, because Ireland as a whole is generally paralysed with the intoxication of alcohol. He finds himself outside a church. Got quite a lot to go through here. I might have to go to a third video. Goodness me. And well, generally speaking, let's go over this a bit. He observes what's going on in the church. There's some sort of sodality meeting going on. A sodality is just a sort of a sect. At a certain age, you join a particular group within Catholicism. The Society of Jesus, or the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or one more devoted to Mary. There's several of them. And for the women at least, they wear different ribbons over their necks, around their necks. The woman, the girl in the butcher's was wearing one, and you can tell what society they are in by the colour of the ribbons. And there women in there now, and a Eucharist is going on, and the priest is feeding them the biscuit. Take of my body, and Bloom, although technically is a Catholic, he's been baptized Catholic, but he's never really paid much attention to it. A bit like his Hebrew classes that or what he's learned from his father. He went to Sunday school, he's learned some Jewish stuff from his father, and he sort of picked up bits and pieces from all over the place. And he observes it, he's observing it in two ways. One, that this is intoxication in itself. Number one, that simply being part of a group, part of Catholicism generally and the individual sodalities, it gives people a sense of comfort. They're in a gang, and that's good. You're not feeling alone in life, but also in a stupefied way. He sort of says rather rudely, he's imagining the priest saying, "Close your eyes and open your mouth," as they kneel in front of him, and he puts the biscuit in their mouth, which they then swallow down. And he's considering, well, it's all sort of a drug. He notices when it comes to the wine that the priest doesn't share that with them. It's just the priest that drinks the wine. Symbolically, that's the blood of Jesus. The biscuit is the body of Jesus, following the Last Supper and the Passover service that was. And Jesus telling the apostles around the table, explaining what they're doing in the Passover service, and then saying, "You will eat of my body, you will drink of my blood, and it will actually be me." And Bloom observing all this, he's observing it in a rather comical way, doesn't really know what they're doing. He talks about some ritual object as the stick with the thing on the end, being dipped in water and shaken, that it's all fairly formulaic. He wonders momentarily, bearing in mind Martha has asked to meet after Rosary, after Mass, whether she's here. He doesn't know what she looks like. Sorry, did I say Mary? I meant Martha. He doesn't know what she looks like. She could be one of these women. He then very comically, there's a very funny phrase, and this is why he doesn't actually want to meet her. And we can think of it in modern terms with Tinder and what have you. You've got a beautiful photograph of a man or a woman there. When you actually meet them, quite often they let you down. And he refers to, she'll turn up here behind a veil in the dusk with the light behind her is a line, and that's a very, very funny thing. It's from a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. I think it's Trial by Jury, where this poor lady is uncharitably described as she can very well pass for 44 in the dusk with the light behind her. And so really it's a terribly funny line, I think. And so Bloom, another reason why Bloom doesn't actually want to meet her. He thinks about the business of the church and how it's run like clockwork, and they rake in the money, and all run from Rome. He thinks about when the priest turns round, and Bloom looks at the letters on his back, IHS, and sometimes there's the other one, INRI. Molly has told him IHS stands for I have suffered, and INRI for iron nails ran in, which clearly is both clearly wrong. INRI, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, is what it stands for. And INS, Jesus, I can't think myself now. It's the Jesuit. Mark's priest out as Jesuit priests. Anyway, so you'll get the gist of all that. I've moved forward to page 102. There's a bit of the services in English. Now, I don't know what papal bull it was when Rome said certain parts of the service could be done in the vernacular, the local language. But we have here the priest saying in English at the bottom of page 102, Bloom thinks that's good, throw them a bone, it's better if they understand it. The Latin stupefies, so more in line with the chapter of intoxication, but when it's in English, at least that engages people a bit more. I do think, seeing as it's about the archangel Michael casting Lucifer out of heaven, is there a sense there of Bloom taking up against Blazes Boylan, his usurper, his devil, is his rolled up baton, his sword, with which at some point, like Odysseus against the suitors, he is going to have to take up and engage in battle with Boylan. Maybe, maybe not. Bloom gets up to go after the service, and particularly because he's concerned they might come round for a collection. So he gets out of there. He notices his fly is undone. A couple of buttons are... Oh, no, it's not his fly. It's not his fly. It's on his waistcoat. He says, lucky it wasn't further south. And then leaves there, realizes he needs to get to the chemist to make up a lotion for Molly. She likes applying a skin cream, but the recipe for it, like the key, is in the other trousers, because he's not got his work trousers on. Special, he's dressed in a special suit for the funeral. He hasn't got that either, but he thinks that the chemist, Sweeney's chemist, will be able to look it up in their prescription book, their recipe book. He reckons it was from a couple of weeks before that he last did it. He goes there, and the chemist is really the epicenter of the drugs, obviously. And there they all are around him, and while the pharmacist is looking up, trying to find the recipe but can't find it, Bloom is observing all the different pots there and jars of different things, filters and what have you, inhaling as he goes on. They sort of cobble together what Molly would want, and the chemist says, I'll have it ready for you later. You don't need to pay me now. Pay me when you come back. Bloom has looked at the soaps there. In fact, here we are. A lemon soap from Sweeney's in Dublin, in that very chemist. It's one of the actual places that is still going strong, although not really as a shop, but more to commemorate this scene, actually. And Bloom sees that. He likes the smell of it, and he'll take that. And the chemist says, well, you don't need to pay me for that now. Pay me altogether later. Out Bloom goes, bumps into a chap called Bantam Lyons. Bloom is not over keen to see him, and remember, like McCoy, Bloom's in a bit of a rush. He'd quite like to fit in a quick visit to the Turkish baths, and then he's got to get to this funeral, and it's now gone 10, and the funeral's at 11, and he's got to get there. So he really hasn't got much time. Bantam Lyons engaged him in conversation because he sees that Bloom is holding the Freeman's Journal. Bantam Lyons wants to check the runners and riders for the Gold Cup, due to run at about 3:20 that afternoon. In particular, he wants to check on a horse. I think it's Maximilian II. Takes it from Bloom. Bloom says, I just need to get rid of this guy, and says to Bantam Lyons, have the paper. I was about to throw it away. And Bantam Lyons says, sorry, what was that? Bloom repeats. He said, I said, you can have it. I was going to throw it away. Bantam Lyons looks at him strangely, looks again at the paper, and then says, oh, I'll risk it, and thrusts the paper back at Bloom. That's all we know that goes on. Bloom then thinks about gambling, how that it's not a great thing. It seems to be taking over Ireland, all ages, Dublin, all ages seem to have been caught up in it, and always only ends badly. So we gather Bloom is not a gambler. And Bloom then finally, in this chapter, makes his way to the public baths, which the design of which is a bit like a mosque. There are minarets, so there's an Oriental, Turkish, Arabian feel to it. And then we don't know that he actually takes the bath, but he foresees himself taking the bath. And in that last paragraph of this chapter on page 107, he foresaw his pale body reclined in it at full, naked in a womb of warmth, oiled by scented, melting soap, softly lathered. So really summing up the narcotic intoxicating ambience of the whole chapter. But it's also replicating the Eucharist. We heard that one of the techniques or symbols of this chapter is the Eucharist. Bloom is sort of saying, well, there's my body, take of my body. He sees himself lying in the bath, the soap bubbles are there, he observes his genitals floating there, and rather, is this a sort of fairly sanguine impression one has? He looks at his limp father of thousands. A mother of thousands is a plant that spreads out on the surface of a pond. His is a father of thousands. He looks at his genitals, a languid, floating flower. And I think probably at no later than during the next chapter, Hades, we need to get into why Bloom. I have mentioned that Rudy, his son, died after only 11 days. We'll get into that a lot more in the next chapter, and how that colours his outlook on life, and is really one of the major themes of the book. Oh, and just a little postscript to Lotus Eaters. Point I ought to say, Martha had a postscript to her letter, which, by the way, so did Millie's letter today. Millie's letter said, P.S. excuse bad writing. Martha's was P.S. What perfumes your wife wear? Please tell me what perfumes your wife wear. I want to know. Well, this little postscript, so we have a postscript as well, because I think I ought to make the point that back in the Homeric analogy, is Ulysses had to go in and grab his men that wanted to stay on the island of the people that eat the fruit of the lotus plant, the Lotus Eaters, who would have stayed there all day. Ulysses forced himself to remain focused on the prize. Even though it was tempting to become intoxicated himself, he remained dispassionate. And I think we have an allusion to that in the church service. While Bloom is observing the Eucharist, he's not being taken in by it. He's viewing it as a business, and observing that the church goers are the addicts, and that the church, in a sense, are the drug pushers. The Catholic Church administering the drug of religion, but that Bloom keeps his distance mentally. He is not absorbed by it. He thinks it's, he gets it. He thinks that's quite good. You're part of a set. Just remember, as also when he read the Agendat Time thing, the Zionist model farm, the kibbutz, he thinks, yeah, a good idea behind it, but wasn't sure it was for him. This, in the same way, remains dispassionate, remains at an intellectual level. He's not intoxicated by the drug. So I thought I wanted to make that point. Okay. So I hope that's useful to you in terms of commentary. And I quite enjoyed that. I quite enjoy this chapter. The business about the newspaper at the end with Bantam Lyons is going to land Bloom in a lot of trouble in that later that afternoon. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me in this, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.